All right, and now we are live and good to go.
All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Tyru Studios live stream on this 19th day of May, Anno Domini 2025. You may notice something a little different in your picture quality today, but there's no need to adjust your set. It's simply that we have adjusted our equipment to properly to display the new color Olo, discovered or created or whatever by James Fong and Dr. Ren Ing at UC Berkeley. Are you familiar with this new development, Sensei?
Very unaware.
So it turns out that we have cones in our eyes that
Hmm.
pick up color,
Yes.
and normally every color that we see ordinarily is the interaction of two or sometimes all three of the cones that most people have. Most people have three. Some rare individuals have four, and people who are profoundly colorblind only have two. And so it's the each wavelength causes two or three of those cones to react. And what the folks at Berkeley have discovered is that by using a laser and shooting it into your eye, not recommended, by the way, um, you can activate only one cone at a time.
Yeah.
And the cone they've activated is the one in the middle, creating basically the ultimate shade of green. It's kind of a teal green color, and you're only having one cone activate. And the reason they call it OLO is because the cones are usually counted as a three-digit number, and this would be 010. The middle cone
Hmm.
is the only one activating. So the existence of OLOs suggests that there is also two other colors out there that we can't see without lasers, and that would be Lu and Ool, but they haven't made those yet.
Ah, yes. The great way of using taxpayer dollars.
Right. Right. There is some there's some ideas that it allows them to do some diagnostics on people that are profoundly colorblind, but yeah, it's kind of a parlor trick. It doesn't really have a lot of applications beyond that. So joining us today is our returning champion Sean Taidu Head, and I will be your quizmaster, Linus Lume Callahan. How are you today, Sensei?
Doing well. Actually, not as sore as I've been previous mornings waking up. So that's very nice.
Yeah, you should ask your wife to take it easy on
That's right. Just all the beatings, man.
you. So, so it's. I'm sorry I missed the last one, last live stream. For those of you who were tuning in for my dulcet tones, I was having lasers fired into my eyes. Again, not recommended, but had to happen.
Italo misses your voice. Yeah. We have actually quite a much livelier live chat than usual, which is very exciting. So I'm gonna go ahead and just read it through a couple questions here first, and then we'll get started. So let's see here. Oh, I actually have like missed it because okay, there it is. All right. So the first question from Hitsuji-chan is: Did you play AC Shadows and thoughts on the music? I didn't play the video game. I only did the like the review video. The guy Lord Takahashi, who is a new subscriber to our channel,
Mm,
he sent me all the videos of them to review, and yeah, I think it's okay. It's I think that the attention to detail of the music wasn't nearly as much as other parts of the video game, which tends to be you know how I see the case. I think Ghost of Tsushima was just an oddity in that sense, where they put so much emphasis on the instrument.
yeah, it's almost a ocarina of time kind of situation.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about it. It's just like that.
Yeah.
Next one from Musicians Roundtable. Are you excited for Ghost of Yote? No, I want more Shakuhachi, and Hitsuji says the same thing. Needs more Shakuhachi. Absolutely. Let's
So when
see.
are we going to get our version of Guitar Hero, right? Shakuhachi Hero, where they give you like a plastic tube with four holes in it, and then you have to move your fingers to score as the notes roll by. Except the notes rolling by, well, instead of on that track like you get with Guitar Hero, it's going to be like some really difficult to read calligraphy that goes by at like a million miles an hour. That sounds great.
That's
I'd
funny.
buy that.
That's funny. That's really funny. All right, I'm just scrolling through these questions really quickly. All right, cool. Yeah, it's Linus, by the way. Linus, like this. There you go. There you have it. Okay, so as always, now that we're done with those, I think we have a couple things to go over today, and of course, we always have the chat open for your questions, all things shakuhachi. So why don't we jump into it with starting with that Gyokusui flute? So you actually played. So this is the Gyokusui flute that we still have available on the website. It's listed at under market value, 1250. It's a very nice flute, and you've played this flute, Linus. And so what were your thoughts about it when you played it?
It's lovely. It's an easy player, and it has a kind of, I mean, for me, comparing it to my everyday flute, it was just incredibly smooth to play. I
Yeah.
did not find, like, going over the break of the octave. There's always, some flutes you have to, there's a little bit of finesse required to roll up to the next octave. And it was quite easy to do that on that flute. And also, it just has if I'm remembering correctly, it's a very light flute.
Yeah, it's a pretty light flute. I wouldn't say that it's like, oh no, it is. It's like 350 grams or whatever. Yeah, and that octave break is very easy to pass over. Yeah.
Yeah. And also, I just thought that it had a very nice, like, sort of the entry point to making a sound on it is very easy to find, and it's very gentle. It does not require a lot of effort to get it moving.
Absolutely. It's a very soft breath, and you gets a lot of sound out of it in just a little bit. So I'm gonna throw the link up for that, so people can check that out if they're interested. It's a really great
We've
price
also,
for a flute like that plays so well.
yeah, we've also got the Yamaguchi Shiro
Oh, that's right.
1.8. That is, as you put it on the website, the classical Kinko sound. Um, those are both just a steal, price wise.
Yeah, yeah. And
Amazing.
you don't find the Shiros in that and like that good of quality. Like it's just it's like someone bought the thing and then left it in their cabinet for 50 years. It's crazy. So
Yeah, it's that car collector's dream, that you open up a garage somewhere and you find a 1966 Shelby GT that's been sitting there with a tarp over it for the last 60 years.
you know
it's
I
it's
had
that kind of experience.
I had an experience like that once, and I did a one of those like storage unit auctions,
Oh
and
wow.
I bought it, and there was a car in it, and so but the thing is that when I took off the cover, it was a Pinto.
That's funny. Well, I had a friend in Iowa whose grandparents passed away, and they were doing an estate sale and cleaning out the house. And
Hmm,
his grandfather had passed away first, and then just a few months later, his grandmother passed. And so
sure.
they kind of hadn't really cleared things out from his granddad. And when opening up a dresser in their bedroom, he discovered a box in the back that had a Colt 1911
Oh,
45 in it
nice.
that was from 1911.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Wow.
I said, "What are you going to do?" He's like, "I don't know. I think I'm going to go to college."
Yeah,
It's worth a lot of money.
absolutely. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, speaking of finding things, we've finally found a design for the Taidu 3D printed model.
Oh,
So
really?
yes, and so I actually do want to talk about this because um, I this is a really important update because now before we were trying to use all of these different products to see what would be best, and when when we tried like the pet bottle plastic like this, and we tried some other ideas and things, and they work, but the problem is that they break easily, right? That was the big issue, is that if you did drop them on a hard surface, they would break into a couple pieces. And the one that I had that I gave to my daughter, it's broken now. And then the ones that we've tested where we've done the drop test, they have shattered into three pieces. So it was no good. It wasn't working, and I did not feel comfortable at all. And so did Nick. We didn't feel comfortable putting up a product like that that had the possibility of snapping and breaking like that. It just wouldn't gonna be
Sure.
work. And
Yeah.
so what we decided to do is we decided to go with the resin model. Now the resin is more expensive, so I'll just put that out there right now. But the thing is with resin is that it is not gonna break. And the other thing that we've thought about it too is that it really sounds fantastic. Like it rivals, the professional bamboo stuff, especially when we're talking about making like jinashi flutes. It has a very similar, I don't know, resonance profile as a jinashi flute does. And the other thing that's very nice about it is that even though it's 3D printed, it still has so much individual work that gets put into it. So, for example, the only thing that really happens is that the internal bore is printed out. After that, Nick goes in, drills the holes, cuts the utiguchi, and then fine tunes the inside, and then lacquers the outside and lacquers on the inside. So, like all the work, you know, that all the work that goes on and all the work that happens. I mean, it's basically like buying a professional bamboo flute, but it's made out of resin instead. And so you have the security of it not breaking. So I'm really really excited for this. We have a couple of them are being finished right now and being sent. But I do want to tell you guys about the price because the price is a lot more expensive than we thought it was going to be. But resin, especially the type of resin that we're using, is very expensive, and the whole process and the amount of man hours it takes to make these. Remember, it's not just the mold, right? We're not just filling it in and then you take it out and then it's done, right? It's a lot of man hours goes into finishing this. It will be about $1,000 for it, but you will have a tip top shape jinashi that's not going to break.
Yeah, and I think that the idea that these alternative materials, the big selling point of these alternative materials has in the past always been durability.
Yeah,
And so,
yeah,
yeah, having something made of an alternate material that had that breakage potential really is an issue. Um, and of course, the best torture test. I didn't realize that you've given one to your daughter. That's an extreme test of a flute.
mm, yep, yep,
So I
absolutely.
don't know. I'm pretty sure my kids could break one too, pretty easily.
Oh, for sure. Just to give you an idea, like it's going to be like this, where this is the hito yogiri that we made, and the impressive thing about this hito yogiri is that well and so this hito yogiri and the shakuhachi both use actual bamboo models. So this is
Mm,
a hito yogiri that was made by Nick, and the jinashi is one that's custom made by Nick, of a flute that I've tested and I approve of. So it's even here you can even see like the indentation of the bamboo on the outside. So when you feel it in your hands, it feels like lacquered bamboo.
that's cool.
So there you have it. So
Yeah,
keep your eyes peeled for the new Taidu Jinashi 3D model.
with a lot of instruments, it's very difficult to get, especially if you're playing something that's sort of a more of a folk instrument. It's very difficult sometimes to get a good, dependable model, and it's for beginners. And we've talked a lot about how, at a certain point in your shakuhachi career, everybody's saying, "Is it me or is it the flute?" And the benefit of having a flute like this that is sort of vetted by people who know what's going on, and that they're all have a certain uniformity, is that, yeah, it's you. You will know for a fact that
Yeah,
it's you.
that's the one thing I like. Well, the reason why I present all the flutes that we have before I upload them to YouTube is that I want you to know that it's a really good instrument. And the thing is that there's plenty of flutes that have come through the studio, right? Even from Yozan that I say, no, that's not going to be one that I upload to to my channel, or it's not going to be one that I upload to my website, because I don't think that instrument meets the standards of what the channel is. So it's not just like everything that Yozan sends me, I go, oh yeah, it's I'm just gonna upload it regardless. No, I play it for you, I review it, I talk about the things I like about it, and even sometimes where I think that an instrument has a weak spot, I expose that too. Say like, yep, this flute's really warm, but it doesn't have as much power. This flute's really powerful, but it doesn't have warmth. This has a lot of depth, but it's not really warm or powerful. Or this isn't all around. This has everything. This fits more over here. So I try to be really transparent and honest with you guys about what you're going to be getting. And so with the Taidu Jinashi, I think that that particular model is people who really want to have a Jinashi flute to play their Honkyoku on. That's gonna be what this flute is for. It's gonna be basically a very well tuned Jinashi flute it's made in the classical style with even the finger holes are going to be smaller. Like they're not going to be this big. They're going to be slightly smaller than this, so that they're still to like the Edo standard. The
Mm.
Utaguchi will also be slightly deeper, but it's not going to be it won't be a modern, won't be a, it'll be kind of in between, like not an Edo cut, not a modern cut, somewhere right in between. So you get those flavors of the older style.
Yeah, boy. That's a really difficult thing to explain uh, unless you've actually played the instruments.
Yeah,
Like until
yeah,
you've actually handled these instruments, it's hard to understand the differences. But the net result for the player is that you're going to have access to sort of a more colorful sound and a sound that has a
yes.
more organic kind of warmth to it.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And the Utaguchi does a lot for the Shakuhachi color. Now, it's not the only thing, right? It's just that that particular place has a lot to do with color variation, and the nodes on the inside. If you get rid of the nodes on the inside, you can think of those are kind of like little color palette areas. And if you remove those, then it becomes less colorful, but it becomes a lot more, you know, succinctly. Everything's more balanced out. So,
One of our members, Raphael, is talking about how he's looking forward to playing the resin one, and
but here's the thing: directly, like we're gonna expose him. Do you really need another flute? The sigh said it all. Like, do you really need another flute?
Raphael's getting called out.
Yeah, 400 flutes later. Juno, maybe one more flute. It's and as Eric said, look, it never ends.
Yeah, I think Raphael also. It's not so much that he's a compulsive collector. Like Raphael's a scientist.
No,
He's
no, 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 no.
testing
It's
all and reporting.
mad scientist. It has to be that has to be there first. I really really miss our lessons in person when I was living in Texas. He he would come in and I'd say, "So what'd you work on?" I was like, "Man, this week was so busy," and I was like, every single night, it's like so. What I told him, I remember this. I remember this is really it's a life changing moment for both of us. I said, "Look, if you don't have anything prepared, you are now required, because this was like the 10th time he came. It's like you are now required to bring a bottle of wine so I can make it through the lesson." The following week, he showed up with 3 bottles of red wine. It's like I didn't say three. It's like this is a down payment. So, so this is the future. Yeah, there in a lot of our lessons, I remember at my latter apartment. Remember the one in that had the big whiskey cabinet, Raphael. That one there, he'd say, I'll be there at 7. 8:30 rolls around and he shows up.
Yeah,
It's on,
and yet
yeah, pure
I
Puerto
think
Rican time.
Raphael is such an asset to us in terms of just being able to. You can go. So what do we know about X flute maker? What do we know about this flute maker?
Mm,
And I always anyone asks me, I'm like, I don't know. Ask Raphael.
yeah. So
So
Yeah, we'll have to have him as a guest on the channel because he's just an interesting guy. Both, but so by the way, we pick at Raphael, but I have to tell you all, he is an absolute artistic genius. The stuff that he creates, the murals, the paintings, and I think it's just out of this world. There's very few people who have that kind of, and like the thing is, you meet Raphael, you would never guess that. You would never guess that he's like into fresco painting or doing that kind of stuff. But I'm telling you, it's just breathtakingly gorgeous. Um, but anyways, enough about him. Let's go on to Eric, who says he got rid of his double honko Myoryu hole. A beautiful piece, but not for me. So I want you to tell us in the chat why you didn't like the Myoryu hole, because I'll tell you one of the reasons what stops me from playing them. And what stops me from playing them is that I've always felt like, well, let me say this before we even go to the criticism of it. Incredible instrument, very very loud, and a very pure sound. But when I played it, or like the ones I've played, all the 1.8s and stuff, I've always felt like I was playing a Western flute. I didn't really feel like I was playing shakuhachi because of its sound quality. It was just too pure of a sound, and I wanted more color in the instrument. That's my only critique of it. Everything else about them are quite incredible sound wise. Like it's just so much sound, so much sound, and a lot of people use them too. A lot of professionals use him.
yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's an instrument that has a sort of designated purpose. And if you are a professional player and you're going to end up with that golf bag approach, where you've got half a dozen 1.8s and you're
Yep.
choosing a specific flute for a specific piece. But if you're a student or someone who's, for whom shakuhachi is a hobby, it's that's a high price barrier to enter.
Hmm. Oh yeah, for
You're
sure.
better off maybe with something that's a more sort of general purpose 1.8.
Yeah, and as Eric says here, he says right on. You're right on with that comment. Perfectly tuned, and there's cutouts that make the medi easy. So yeah, one thing he does is he puts these little cutouts on the bottom of the holes. Let me get a brighter piece of bamboo so you can see this. So what will happen is he'll take like this bottom bit right here in the corner, or even right in the middle, and then there'll be a little tiny divot that gets cut. So that way, when you cover, you can basically cover the hole almost perfectly. And then the bottom of it is a little bit open. And then he has another one here at the on the re. And those cutouts make it so the medis are easier to play. And so it's kind of like a little assistant, so you don't have to do as much movement. So
Hmm. Eric says it's a great weapon. Heavy in the hand, great weapon. All
absolutely,
right.
yeah. I think especially like, of course, like he's making his process is very very slow. So he's like layering G, uh you know, layering G just little by little by little, and that's another thing that really makes them like so powerful.
Yeah, it's really the whole process of flute making. Anytime I talk to someone who actually makes flutes, or we get into these discussions about how flutes are made, it's one of those things that the I cannot ever see myself doing it because the attention to detail required is just beyond me. It's
Mhm.
amazing. It's one of those things I was like, wow, those people are incredible.
Well, the thing is that it requires like the kind of uh, obsessiveness over it. And I think what distinguishes the performer from the maker is the performer puts all of that kind of detail orientedness into their playing, whereas the
Right.
maker puts it into their flutes. Right. So really doing both is a very difficult thing. You can't have anything else in your life if you're gonna be both the performer and the maker.
That's amazing. I think too that the amount of time put the difference for me is the amount of time put into practice, never feels like it's you went down the wrong path. Whereas in making, if you're changing something and you spend hours on it and determine that it was not a change that worked out, it just feels like, oh, I have to go back and start over. It's the difference to me between the sort of temporal nature of music and the like permanence of making a physical item. It's really, I my hat is off to those people. I'm so glad they exist, and I'm so glad it's not me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've tried to make a couple flutes, but it just did not work out well for me. I made one good one and I made one decent one, and after that it was just like, "Oh, I'm tired. Like this is I don't have any time to I have no more energy left over to pay attention to detail to performing." So at that I kind of knew it was like it was a very good experience for me to try doing that and making some flutes, but I knew that was kind of the end of it right there for me.
Yeah, I had a similar experience watching people do luthery. I was playing guitar and playing ukulele, and I kind of dabbled with the idea of building my own ukulele. And then I watched someone actually like doing internal bracing on
Mhm.
the soundboard, and I was like, no, no, that is not for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, very difficult stuff. Got a lot of comments. This is a very lively live stream chat area there, discussing also uh, Kyle Chome and Ken
Mhm.
Lacrosse and Perry Young and all sorts of stuff going on over there. They need their own channel. These guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Eric's going for it, man. He's got lots to say
Well,
today. I love it.
Eric mentioned the Utaguchi is made of mastodon ivory, and I was curious. I haven't had a lot of experience with alternative uh, Utaguchi materials,
Sure.
mostly the plastic and then a buffalo horn.
Mhm.
Do you have like strongly held opinions about the quality of the Utaguchi itself?
It really doesn't make a difference on like what type of material is put in. It just like if it's harder material, it's better. It's better. But it's only to make it so it cuts like the sound cuts and starts harder. But the bigger difference would be the sharper the edge of the utiguchi. So if it's sharper, it will be more clear of a sound, right? And then if it's not as sharp and it becomes dull, then obviously it will soften the sound. That's why like the raw bamboo hit on the shakuhachi is a lot softer than something that does have an insert. I mean, all of mine are or most of my flutes are ivory. And I think mine are also mastodon too. That's normally what people are using in Japan. Like I don't actually think many of the people in Japan are using elephant tusk or anything like that because a lot of the ivory just washes up on the shore in Japan. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I remember actually
Sorry.
Raphael says that he has a 2.5 with the ivory Itaguchi, and I actually remember um, to I remember when I got that flute for you and I had it at my house. So
Yeah, as they're saying in the chat right now, the point with the extinct animals using sort of fossilized ivory or ivory from species that are extinct is accepted from sites laws, so that you don't end up in trouble when you travel with it and stuff. But it's a question of documentation as well. You end
mhm.
up, I know that I've never heard of anyone getting their flutes, held at customs or anything, but it certainly has happened to people who play other instruments that are made of woods that are not acceptable or that have ivory keys and things like that. I can't imagine customs in the United States, holding a flute unless someone's tipped them off. Oh, this is made of elephant tusk, you know. But it is a possibility, I suppose.
So here's from the website the IFAW. This is the title of the article that they have is does the new ivory ban mean buying and selling ivory is illegal? And so First, the rules do not make it illegal to own or inherit ivory. That's the first thing. And second, if you can't prove it's old, it's no longer legal to buy, sell, or a piece of ivory in the US. So this is specifically with regards to things within the US. Now, when you're importing and exporting stuff from Japan, if you buy a flute that has ivory, it just has to be ivory that was old ivory, and then there's no issue whatsoever. And most of the Shakuhachi players have that kind of documentation. And if they don't, then just the easy solution is that you go there in person and pick it up. So I know many people want to visit Japan, and visiting Japan is a great time to go play a bunch of instruments and then buy what you want. But if you don't have that, then there might be a case where you wouldn't be able to get one with ivory just because of how the mate with the maker and whatever. And sometimes it is really difficult to prove that it's old. That's the part of the new law that's really cumbersome, because you can say, like, for example, on my 2.4, the middle joint is complete, is 100% ivory, but it's old ivory. We bought it off of an auction site, and it was used to make the stamps for people. It was an old big stamp one, so we gave it to a ivory shop who does that kind of customization, and we said we want to make a middle joint for the shakuhachi. And so then he made it out of that and whatever. But the whole entire process of it was being used with old ivory. But how do you prove it? Whatever. You won't be able to go to like that ivory maker and say, yeah, this is an old piece or whatever. He's not allowed to do that, or can't do that, because he hasn't had it in his own possession for 90 years or whatever. So
Mm.
it's like it does kind of put a restraint on it. But let's say you buy a flute that is super super old and it has ivory in it. Well, because the flute is already old, the ivory is obviously old with it too. And you can even see it through the discoloration of it kind of becoming that sort of paste, what is that off-white color.
Yeah, yeah.
That just automatically lets you know that it's very old ivory. And so there it is.
Well, Raphael said that you can tell that based on the pattern in the material itself, whether it's modern ivory or whether it's mastodon.
What's the
And
what's the
I
what is the color, or the like the pattern of it?
yeah,
You
I don't know. I've never heard of that before. But
can
if Raphael, if you're listening, you can
yeah, what's
tell
the
us what to
pattern?
look for. He says looks like crisscross diagonal shapes that the non-trained specialist could think it's human made. Hmm, interesting.
Yeah, this one has that kind of that crisscross shape to it. I see it. Yeah, there's the X shape to it. But I don't think most people would even know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, here. Like this one.
Again,
This
this
one's
is one of
very, I
those
wonder if you can actually
one of
see
those
this. I don't think that can be seen. Uh oh, it was like there for a second. See if we can get it to this is fun. Oh, come on. See if we can get it to focus in on it. No, it's not going to do it. It's going to try to focus on me.
I don't know if I could see that in person.
It is, this one's very 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 easy to see. This has, it almost looks like it almost looks kind of like snake skin.
Oh, okay. Or I was wondering if it had like sort of a carbon fiber kind of regularity to it.
Yeah, even on the middle one you can see the crisscross shaping on it. But this one up here, it's like really nice. You can see like it looks like a diamondback skin.
Hmm. Interesting. And
Yeah.
how do you feel about the like? Is that Nakatsuki holding up well? Is ivory good material for that?
No, it's not good material for it, because the ivory will can crack easily if you keep opening and closing it. So it literally is just it's literally just a sort of a luxury thing that you have to take care of.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend that people get an ivory middle joint, because one, it's extraordinarily expensive, And then 2, it's time consuming, and there's a chance that the ivory piece will break. And then every single time you take it apart, you have to worry about it as soon as it hits together. The ivory hitting ivory, it has a chance of cracking. Because it's the same. You have to remember that it's the same sort of thing. It's like hair. It's like hair and nails. It's the same sort of
Yeah.
uh you know what is that, composite material or whatever.
Yeah, it's well, keratin, I think is the sort of primary component of it, but it's it is very different to work. I've watched some guys on woodworking channels who are like restoring and doing some carving on tusks,
Yeah.
like full tusks, and it's picky material. It's different than working wood or working stone, or it's got its own qualities that are kind of a learning curve.
What I found to be really interesting is like I saw one video where this guy basically did an entire mastodon tusk, and he put it into like a mold and then stuff. It was really interesting.
Wow. Raphael says he has a 1.6 made by a Chinese master that's made with ostrich bone.
Yes, yes, he does. I've seen that. Yeah, it's a
Oh
it's a very,
man,
very, very,
I
very,
know that.
very strange
I
piece
know
of
that.
material. There's sometimes where you get like those materials where you go, mm, maybe not. You know?
Well, I once said on Discord, during a discussion of materials, they were talking about how bone is a possibility, and I think Raphael, I mean, it was Raphael, said he also has one that's uh, antelope. It's not a shakuhachi; it's a kana, but that it was antelope bone, and that it smells like barbecue.
Nah. I
In Tibetan Buddhism, there's a tradition of using the body parts of llamas to make instruments for ritual after their death, and so they use thigh bones and sometimes the bowl of a skull and things like that to make instruments. And so I told my wife that I wanted her to keep one of my thigh bones and have it made into a shakuhachi.
There you
And
go.
being the good, sensible woman that she is, she said no.
Can you
She
imagine if
just said
just Yozans people started sending him thigh bones? Like, can you make a shakuhachi out of this?
getting into the whole discussion of what's legal to own. Boy, you start talking about human body parts, that gets tricky.
Didn't we have a live stream where we looked that up if it was like legal or not to own human skulls?
Well, it is okay. So, one of my other interests is death. No,
Uh-huh.
there's a great channel on YouTube. If you are interested in any of these kind of questions, there's a great channel called Ask a Mortician,
Hmm.
and the woman Caitlin Doty, she is somehow manages to talk about mortuary science in really in depth terms and does really great deep dives and is also funny talking about it. But from watching her channel, I have led to believe that it's basically impossible in the United States to keep a body part from a deceased relative, even if it's in their will, like, oh, I want my skull to be flensed and cleaned and given to my widow or something like that. There are laws about how you handle cadavers, and there's basically it's against the law to violate a cadaver.
Isn't there actually a way though to compress like the like body parts and bones and stuff and basically turn it into a diamond, like carbon diamonds?
It, Yeah, but they're working there with the cremated remains. They're not working
Oh, I
with the
see.
actual parts. And in America, we do things differently in America than they do in Japan. In Japan, when a person's remains come out of the crematoria, they uh, they have a sort of there's ash, but there's also larger pieces that are still in there, bone that was not fully consumed. In the United States, we put the remains through a machine called a cremulator, which actually grinds up anything left so that the remains that are returned to the family are just pure dust. There's no solids at all. And that's the stuff they work with to make artificial stones.
Mm.
Yeah. So you can have like grandma turned into a diamond and wear it as a pendant or whatever.
You know,
And it's
there's something just a little bit wrong with that.
well, there's also lots of other procedures starting to happen now. So cremation and standard burial are far from being your only choices at this point. There is something called aquamation, which is a kind of water cremation, if you will, where they put you in a tank and they run various chemicals in there and it sort of dissolves you.
Uh-huh.
And then there's also human composting, where in certain states it is now legal. They put you in this big tank and cover you with soil and sort of accelerate the process so that a couple of months after you are interred, your family can come and pick up bags of rich, sort of hardy soil that used to be grandma and can take it home and put it in their flower garden.
I have seen one that I was like, that's a really good idea, which was, you can basically be turned into a tree.
Yeah.
That one's nice. And like that could still be like you have a cemetery with all these trees and whatever, and each tree is an individual person. They can have a stone and all that. And that sounds nice. All of these other options are not desirable.
Well, the movement that sort of started there is a charitable organization called the Order of the Good Death, and
Hmm.
of which I am a member. And it is run by Caitlin Doty, the woman we mentioned earlier from Ask a Mortician on YouTube.
I see.
And they are trying to just make it so that funerals are not so expensive.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And
I mean, they're thousands of tens of thousands of dollars to do. So,
Yes. And some of that has to do with the fact that embalming, there's a whole involved process here of understanding the history, but embalming became a thing in the American Civil War. People could not afford to have their slain son put into a sealed coffin and brought home to be buried. So they invented this process called embalming, which was to basically stuff people with sawdust and arsenic to stop them from falling apart.
sure.
And the embalmers realized that after the war was over, they needed to sort of make embalming sort of appeal to the middle class. And so they little by little took the processing of dead bodies, the washing and dressing for burial that was used to be handled by family and friends. They took that away from people and moved it into a profession. It's a whole involved thing, but the bottom line is, it's just a really expensive and largely unnecessary and kind of toxic for the people involved and the environment
Yeah.
to embalm people in the traditional
Yeah.
manner.
Arsenic is not something you want to have in your ground.
Right. They got rid of arsenic pretty early in the 20th century and replaced it with formaldehyde, which is
Wow, what
not
a better choice.
yeah, not a lot better. And a lot of the people who do embalming nowadays, their embalming fluid is much less toxic than it used to be, but
Hmm.
still not great to be leaching into the groundwater, all those chemicals.
No. You know that a lot of really great shakuhachis have been burned with their masters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
a lot of shakuhachi players get cremated with their shakuhachis because the
Well,
booty.
and just in terms of sheer space,
Hmm.
interring the ash remains of a person takes up a whole lot less space than trying to inter whole bodies. And that's in some cities is a real problem.
Hmm.
The difference between the cemetery is that you can't stack people, and in a columbarium where you're putting the cremated remains of people, you can stack many remains up in a very small space. And that's something that's actually being sort of pioneered here in Japan. There are some very famous columbariums in Japan
Yeah,
where
they fill one of like the large Buddha statues with all the bones and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can get a lot more people in, and then also there's places like New Orleans, for example, where you can't really bury people underground because of the frequent flooding, and so then you end up with crypts,
Mhm.
which are lovely, but they fill up. And then what do you do with the bones that have been there for 150 years when you need more space? It's a whole thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, the easy answer is you push the bones back. That's usually what happens. But
Yeah.
anyways, I didn't know we were going to be a mortician show today. So for those who have been tuning in with us this entire time, I think you've learned a lot more about death than you were expecting today. So very
Yeah, and if you want to continue the discussion on, I'm always up for a chat about death.
Well, we do have a random and off-topic section on our Discord. So if you can post the Discord link for everybody, if you're not a member of the Discord already, please join the Discord
Thank you.
and ask Linus all about death in the off-topic channel.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's what I
like
want.
Eric, here's a really good point about death that Eric mentioned. He says, "I'm pretty sure people play Shakuhachi before they've died."
Generally,
Yes.
generally.
Also, Prairie Ghost Ken, who's been here for a while, has said it's been quite fascinating the whole conversation. Well, yeah, sometimes this is what happens. Is sometimes we start Shakachi, we start strong, we play a couple notes, and then a conversation comes in that we focus on that's completely unrelated. But we segue somehow back into Shakachi stuff, like right now.
I
And
was going to
here
say,
we,
have you actually played something yet
yes,
today?
we did. Remember, I played the Gyokusui.
Oh, right, right.
Yeah. So, my friend Nick Belando and our friend of the studio at Hon On Shakuhachi, we're having another course for the Hita Yogiri. So, if you're really interested in classical shakuhachi sounds, the old way of playing, the philosophy of the early komuso and monks that were playing this instrument in the 14th, 15th, and 16th century, then you definitely want to check out this course for the Hita Yogiri. I'm going to pull up the link for that so that you guys can read a little bit more about it. The course starts in July, and it is online with Nick. And even if you miss a class or two, it's not a big deal because everything gets uploaded as private YouTube videos. So as long as you have the link and it's associated with your account, you'll be able to get access to all of those things. It's well worth it. It's such a fascinating instrument with such a rich history, and I think personally it adds a lot to your shakuhachi playing. There has been things that I've actually changed about my shakuhachi playing after doing the hitayogiri stuff with Nick.
Okay, for some reason, Discord is not allowing me to give you a link. It's not giving me the ability to give you a link.
Did you get banned? What did you do?
Well, if I did, it would be by you. So you tell me, what did I do?
Well, you have like you have more power than anybody in the disc. Basically, the only thing that you can't do is delete the Discord. That's the only thing you're unable to do.
That's
All
not a
right.
great idea. You shouldn't really. I don't think I'm a person who should have that kind of.
It's okay.
Should-
I shared the Discord link there, so definitely go ahead there.
I think my
Now,
Discord is just frozen. I think is what's happened. So
now we have another thing that I want to bring up too. And I think this is where I want to end our live stream today. I think it's a great topic. So I wrote this article on sound and saying, learning kanji, ethics, and shakuhachi through Yoji Jukugo. And so you've read the article because you are my basically how to speak English liaison for when I write stuff. So what's your kind of thought about the whole premise of using those kind of pithy four character sayings as a sort of ethical guide to playing shakuhachi?
it's a fascinating side to the instrument that is just completely overlooked in the West. And I mean, like, imagine if I said to you, "All right, you're coming to the house for your first guitar lesson, but before we get started with tuning and everything, I want to talk to you about the ethics of guitar."
Mm,
Right? The person would look
yeah.
at you like you were crazy, right? And so it is unique to the Western student to have sort of an ethical core that went along or goes along with your instrument. But it
Yeah.
is if you're a martial arts student, then it makes a lot of sense.
Hmm.
Every martial arts I've ever studied has had some sort of list of rules of behavior that were taught, and the fact that they're taught with a cool mnemonic device is really unique. Something just totally missing in the Western experience. So I think it's great. I think it's very interesting. I don't know if it's going to help me learn kanji, but
Yeah. Well, I kind of like those sayings. So, for example, one saying that I've been using a lot lately because I think it helps people understand the some of the like relationship like in classical studies of shakuhachi, like in just classical teacher like shisho deshi relationships is sampo sagatte shi no kage o fumazu, which means take 3 steps or walk 3 steps behind and don't step on your teacher's shadow, which is this whole entire idea of you're not going to try to outdo your teacher, right? And in the West, it's we don't think that way, right? We were like
yeah.
the teacher hopes and prays that their students outdo them and go way farther than them.
Yeah, I wonder if that statement, if the aphorism is more along the lines of don't step on your teacher's shadow while they're alive.
Uh yes, absolutely. Yeah,
I mean, we don't want to get a Klingon captain first officer situation going on, where the only way to advance is to kill your superior. But it does seem like there would be some sort of, unspoken, like, oh, well, they're dead. Okay, so go ahead, feel free to surpass them. you
yeah.
know, yeah, it's definitely something in American or Western academics as well. People, PhDs, you take in a grad student and take them in as a protege and train them and get involved in their research and everything. And then when they get their PhD, they suddenly shift and become the competition.
Mm,
And you're all fighting for the same tenure dollars at that point, and it can be very awkward. There's actually a book, I'd have to look it up, but there is a book about why tenured academics guard PhDs, and suddenly turn on their grad students at a certain point in the process.
mhm. Absolutely, and I definitely can to see that. But here's the way I think of it now. Like maybe in the past, when you had like your own little small village that you're living in, there's like a like we're thinking realistically 300 years ago, even within a fairly large city, you have what tens of thousands of people living there. There's not
Sure.
that many people who are going to be wanting to learn shakuhachi, but in today's like marketplace, you have access to 8 billion people. I really don't think there should there should really necessarily be a strong competition base for that when you don't have you're not stuck regionally where you can expand outwards into any area
Yeah,
because of
and
online.
well, and also there's just the idea of shakuhachi being taught in different languages as well. And we have a lot of people in our studio that are qualified to take what they've learned in English lessons with you and go and turn it into Spanish lessons for someone else,
Yeah.
or German lessons for someone else.
Which this actually brings up I think the last point about today, which is that in our studio, I have a couple openings for people to take lessons. So if any of you have been wanting to take lessons and want to sign up, I have probably 3, 4 openings that I will be taking some new students. And we also have a bunch of people in our studio who are now qualified to teach. I think there's 5 of you, if I'm correct, 5 or 6,
Yes.
and that a variety of languages there, everything from Mandarin to Spanish, French. Um, somebody speaks
German.
Portuguese. Yeah, German, Portuguese, and I think that's it for the languages that pop out to me right now. I know there's more.
If you're struggling, I'm from California, so I speak dude
Yeah,
if
dude,
you need that.
bruh,
Bruh.
that bro is just not riding well.
Dude, that Medi was sick, bruh. But yeah, there's a lot of opportunity there, and we have a lot of just a lot of diverse teaching styles as well. There are people that have that conservatory experience that are, sort of professional musicians. And then there are people that are approaching the instrument from a much more sort of spiritual side. And so you kind of look for the teacher that pleases you,
Hmm.
um, and suits your personality as well. So, for those who are not long term listeners, for Taidu to have some openings in his schedule is pretty rare.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a unique situation. For quite a while now, it's been, can you take lessons with Taidu? And the answer was no.
Yeah. So
So that's jump on it if you're interested.
absolutely. All right. So I think that solves it. So go ahead, take us out.
All right. Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share the video, join us on Discord, and in the meantime, row